In honor of the new moon, which happens to be in Scorpio, I wanted to do a little something. So it's going to be, I pulled an oracle card from the Threads of Fate and an animal spirit card, and I wanted to discuss those and the message that's coming through at this time. I wanted to do something a little bit more extensive, but there was a family emergency this weekend, and the energy has just been so chaotic and no time. And but I did want to do something, and this is what it's going to be. I'll keep it as brief as I can, and just know that I already said my prayer that this is in the highest good of all that tune in. May there be no interference. May I get out of my own way, and may this be the message that we need to hear at this time. This time I'm recording this on the day of the new moon in Scorpio, which it was actually at like 2 in the morning or something, so it's already happened. But we'll be in the window of it for a few days, and then of course the new moon is when it's the dark of the moon and it's setting a new cycle for the next 28 days. It's when you can't see the moon in the sky because it's conjunct the sun, which is also in Scorpio, and Mars is there too. It's also opposing Uranus in Taurus. So that's hence the kind of chaotic, unpredictable energy at the moment. There's a lot more I could say about that, but I'm curious how you're maybe doing or how you're experiencing that. And yeah, I could do an entire video just on that, but we'll keep it moving. So the point being is that you know, we're in the window of the new moon for the next few days, and the next 28 days this message will apply. And if you hear this outside of that, I'm there maybe still it's something you need to hear. So just keep that in mind. And due to recent events, it made me think of there's a few things I wanted to bring up in relation to Scorpio. So Scorpio, the scorpion, can be associated with abandonment and betrayal, or it often gets coined as very transformational energy, death and rebirth, the caterpillar, turning to go in the cocoon and becoming the butterfly, what needs to dissolve, what needs to regenerate. It's a fixed water sign that goes very deep. It's known for being deep, dark. Sometimes it can even be nightmarish, hell. Pluto, Hades, the ruler of the underworld, on and on and on. And yet, through circumstances this weekend, it reminded me in my original studies of Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of evolutionary astrology, I cannot talk. When he discusses the Scorpio archetype, he brings up it's really getting to the bottom of something. So whatever the thing is that happens that shakes us out of whatever complacency we were in, that in turn generates the asking the why. So I really wanted to bring that up because I've sort of forgotten it. It's a no bullshit, very authentic, like let's get real. But it really sparks and generates the deeper processes in consciousness of why. Like, why did this happen? Why is this happening? It could even be, why is this happening to me? It's just this whole deep dive around that question. Why? So I invite you, in whatever capacity and however it relates to you currently, to just sit with that. And doesn't have to be right this moment. It can be over the next 2 days. It can be over the next 28 days. And just contemplate the whys in your life. And then the other big theme around Scorpio is, of course, as it relates to death, is the letting go. So that's the more, I don't want to say cliche, but that's more what Scorpio is known for, is the letting go. But I also invite you to consider and contemplate where you could maybe let go, where are some areas that need a little bit of let go, where are you holding on and need to let go, even if that's as simple as some tension in your shoulders right now while you're listening to this, or maybe it's something bigger and more personal and you didn't even realize you needed to consciously invite that process in. So those were the two messages that were coming to me prior to pulling these cards that I really wanted to bring up. And then these are the cards I just pulled after doing a little meditation and saying the prayer prior to the one I said at the beginning. And what's interesting is they have more of a Sagittarius flavor, if that's the right word. Sagittarius comes after Scorpio in the zodiac. So the moon, you might be listening to this when the moon has shifted into Sagittarius, and maybe this will be appropriate for that as well. And that's when, so Scorpio, you can feel trapped and entrapped and enmeshed and bound to something. And so how can you break free? Sag is like what it feels like when you break free of those confines, and get out of the box, get out of the basement, get out of the chains, get out of whatever has been keeping you bound. And so I shuffled and shuffled and shuffled and shuffled, and then the Sage card came out and I read it and I went, okay, well, this is the message that wants to come through, so I am more than happy to share it. Just looking at the card, it does look like there's this, like the little bit of the crescent moon right around that you see the new moon that you'll see in a few days here, depending on when you listen to this. And then the card itself is really interesting because, it's got the two staffs at a cross, which makes me think of like, what's your cross to bear in this lifetime? And then the little teeth, I remember talking about this in a reading like years ago, that those little teeth are so fascinating. Teeth being like, what are we chewing on? What are we digesting? There's also a correlation to the skeleton, or even losing your teeth and new teeth coming in. And what's funny is that the guidebook, I'll read this here in just a moment, doesn't even, I don't think it referenced the teeth. I remember finding that so interesting. But just invite you to take a breath, soften your exhale as I read this. So the Sage encourages you to see things from a higher perspective. Sage love teaches others, but knows when not to share their thoughts with others. They save their energy and their wisdom for those that can truly value and integrate it. We may feel passionate about what we're saying, but we must also allow for individual responsibility. A healthy sage encourages us to share our wisdom, but to do so in a way that empowers others. Sage respects that everyone is where they are supposed to be in their process. They do not teach from a place of ego. The sage calls you to tap into the wisest part of yourself. This card serves as an invitation to explore yourself without judgment or shame. Just simply see what you find. And it's also an invitation to bring the wisdom you've found in your reflecting to others. It asks, what are you here to teach, or what's your message? It's all about exploring an internal landscape and finding the truth. It's not attached to outcomes and simply wanting to see everything for what it is, rather than manipulating the external. A balanced sage is a pillar in their community, and they are not in service to others, Oh, they are in service to others, but not for their own ego. And they often do a lot behind the scenes. Their ability to affect change is widespread, but others may not notice it. However, an unbalanced sage energy can include heavy criticism, a dogmatic disposition, being controlling, and manipulation. They may disregard their students' feelings and experiences and think that only they are right. Sage at its worst thinks that there is nothing left to learn because they know it already. So see, it doesn't reference the teeth anywhere. um, do you see? Do you see a correlation there? It's so interesting. Um, this card is perplexing. So see, I'm already starting the why process. Why are there teeth on this card? And there's no mention of them. And that also invites you deeper into the mystery, right? Which I would say is very Scorpio process, also Sage, Sagittarius. A lot of the things referenced in this card are the higher perspective, the wisdom, the truth. Those are all very Sagittarius elements. But I feel like what really needs distilled down and communicated right now is not the biting your tongue, but it's the saying what really needs said and cutting out the rest, which this is an ongoing practice for me always. And I have by no means mastered it. But it's essentially talking about how the master knows how to express what can be heard at the level it needs to be heard. And then I love the message too of remembering everyone's where they need to be and letting them be where they need to be. Sometimes harder to do than others, as I got to experience a little taste of that recently. And then the not controlling and manipulating, I feel like that really wants to come through at this time as well. And just the invitation to explore. And looking at the internal landscape, I would say that's heavy. That's up right now. And then the not being attached to outcomes, that's always a good reminder to let go of the outcome. See things, it is as it is. See it for what it is. And again, that message of allowing that seems to always come through these messages, rather than trying to manipulate things how you want them. Because typically, when you're trying to manipulate people, places, or things, or an excessive amount of control is coming in, it's because there's something there that we're almost running from inside that hasn't been faced. And so it's like, can you just turn to your internal landscapes, face that, let go of, let the cards shuffle how they will, let the chaos sort itself out, and then just come back inside, see things for what they are, and then like that's where the wisdom gets access. That's where you can pause. That's where you can decide, like, how can I communicate in a way that is effective? What did that say? It respects where everyone is where they're supposed to be in their process, and they know when and when not to share their thoughts with others. So that feels really important. You don't have to say it was 14:14 on the timestamp right then. That is definitely up for me right now. So if you're hearing this, maybe you need to hear it as well, or someone listening needs to hear that. I happen to have a really great person in my life who, she's incredible to watch how she's just one of those people that can talk to people, and she knows how to say exactly what's needed in a situation to smooth it over, exactly what's needs to get communicated, how to like soften the blow. But like I wish I could give a better example than that, but she's been such an inspiration for me this past year that I've been implementing that more. And then I'm also very aware of when others don't have that skill or don't know how to do that, or, haven't had someone to be an example and show them. Like for example, let's just say someone sends a text and it's very controlling, and you can do this, and it's like not acknowledging the other person. It's not asking a question. It's just very demanding, controlling. And it's just really what they're thinking at the moment, but there's no grace or consideration or just extracting what really needs said in a very tender or inflamed or touchy circumstance. I don't know if those are quite the words I wanted to say, but that message really wanted to come through. And then I decided to pull the animal spirit card as well, and I laughed when I got the fox, because foxes are known for being sly, and they avoid trouble at all costs. Like they're not going to go out of their way to start a fight. They know how to sneak around. They're if you've ever seen one, it's like the whole world goes quiet when you see one, and their little paws just skid across the grass like you can't. It's like the world goes on mute. And I believe in my animal spirit book, it talks about this at length, that if you see a fox or a fox comes into your life, it's saying not to start unnecessary fires, which would pertain to this message I've just been talking about with the sage. So that's what feels really important at this moment in time. And the fox is also, what else wanted to come through about the fox? I don't feel like I was quite complete with that. They will avoid confrontation. That's one of their survival mechanisms, which is interesting, because Scorpio can be confrontation itself. It can be what happens when two things collide, and then two substances have a chemical reaction, and then that's the transformation. And so that's going to happen regardless. There's no, and that's where the whole idea of sex comes in with Scorpio. It's the two things merging into the third thing, is also another Scorpio process. So the two things at odds, what teeth are going to get broken in the process, and what third thing is going to come out of it. And while the little fox is looking at it, how can you be as smart as possible? How can you keep your side of the street clean? I believe that came up for the earth signs. I don't remember. I definitely remember the fire signs reading said something along those lines too. And I don't know, so much has been happening. It's hard to keep track of anything. But the fox is stealthy, wise, quiet, deeply, like, just hearing this or feeling this, like going into deep stillness and deep silence and contemplation, perhaps about the whys, perhaps about the what, where can we let go. I know last Thursday I was sort of talking about this really trying situation, and a good friend was just like, I don't know, maybe you just need to let it go and stop, essentially trying to get your way or control the outcome. And I did. And I realized she was right. And I just had like a really hard cry. But I did let go. And then what was neat was the resulting days. What I let go of actually came back to me in a better way. It was like I let go of it. And then what came back was even better, instead of me trying to cling or move towards it or manipulate it. So I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not trying to convey this message, but the theme feels really strong around the confront what needs confronted within yourself, and whatever is clashing in your world, how can you rise above it and be as graceful and stealthy and, like slick about it as possible. And, if you can't, you learn in the aftermath. And then that's when you get to go contemplate the whys. But I just wanted to honor the why itself, even without an answer to the question. And only you can know where that why is for you. And sometimes it's a deeper subconscious process, which is also Scorpio, the deep subconscious. That your subconscious is working on the why, but you maybe have no idea, why did someone die? You're never going to know the answer to that. But the contemplation itself has so much significance of what comes from that. I don't know if that makes sense at all. So, with that, I just completely went blank. I feel like in one hand I'm holding the deeper whys to a situation, and in the other hand I'm holding the how to just let go of it all completely and not find and where, like maybe just choose whichever one of those suits you more right now, whichever one's resonating more. Of course you can do both if you want, you can do nothing. Just as you move about the next few days and this next moon cycle, within all the chaos and friction and unknowns and instability and kind of like raw energy out there, where can you bring on your inner fox in each situation, and where can you create space for the deeper processes to happen right now. And what's the thing that just what's the thing that is asking you to let go of it, and can you honor that? So with that, thanks for tuning in. If you've made it this far, if any of this made sense, please let me know. If any of it resonated, let me know. If it didn't, just leave it for someone else. And I hope that you can truly access what really matters at this time, and let the rest just shuffle off. I'm also seeing like that fox is an observer, which is what this card is saying. So there's lots of observational energy, and obviously between this new moon and the next full moon will be in 2 weeks, which by then we will have moved into Sagittarius. Woohoo! I love Sag. And so it's fitting that it's kind of a little of both in this reading. And I hope there was something of value. And I'm kind of tripping over my words because I feel like there's some last thing that wants to come out, but I'll probably think of it after I've uploaded it. Uh, and I feel like this is also a really good message too, if it's the beginning of um, possibly dealing with more family or more, there's just a lot going on right now. So I love that the fox came out so much. I really want to share. There's even a more personal reason, but I'm just going to save it. So I wish you well. Thank you.